Welcome back to the channel. I am so excited to bring you this video today. This has been a long time coming. I have been in a muscle building phase for 6 months now. And I'm getting asked every single day, how's it going? What's going on? I haven't heard much about it. I've been posting a little bit here and there in my Instagram stories, but it's time to fill you in on everything. It's been 6 months and so much has happened, and I can't wait to share it all with you. Okay, so I want to kind of start off by summarizing a few things about this journey. And I have some notes here in front of me, and I'm doing this purposefully because I really don't want to forget to tell you anything. So let's start. Why did I do this in the first place? I think this is a great question and something really important to understand. I did this for two main reasons. One is I want to build muscle. That's pretty obvious. I wanted to build some muscle. And I got a little pushback from some people saying, well, you already have muscle. You know, why do you really want to do it? I have built muscle through maintenance, and even in a deficit, I've built some muscle. It's not the optimum way to do it. I've never been in a calorie surplus specifically to build muscle. That's one reason. And the second reason might surprise you. The second reason is the thought of the scale going up purposefully. Me making the scale go up frightens me. It frightens me to the point where it's almost paralyzing, because I've spent my entire life wanting the scale to go down. And now when I was entering into this phase, I was going to be making the scale go up purposefully. And that was scary. And for that very reason, the fact that it scared me is another reason why I know I need to do it. Because I don't want things like this hanging over my head anymore. I want to be able to conquer that fear head on, and this is how I choose to do it. By putting myself out there, making it very uncomfortable for me to watch the scale go up purposefully and strategically too, I may add, and deal with all of those feelings that will surface as I go through. And I think that's super important to understand. I truly believe that the only way you conquer any fear is to hit it square on. Now, how you hit things square on can vary depending on the person and the situation and the circumstances. But for me, it was, okay, let's go all in. Let's do it. So that's really the reasons why I've been doing this. I have no particular performance goal or anything like that. It's just that I've never done it. I wanted to build some muscle, and I wanted to conquer a fear. So what did I do? I basically have been in maintenance prior to this for years. So I've never tracked my maintenance, at least in recent history. I haven't tracked it. I know what I can eat to maintain my weight. I've done it for several years. So what I decided to do to be in a surplus was to add some calories in a couple days a week. So by the end of the week, I'm in a small surplus. That was it. My surplus was not very big at first. I decided I was going to go 2 days a week, adding 150 to 200 calories on those days. And by the end of the week, I would have been in the plus column 300 to 400, give or take. The other days, I was just eating at maintenance. So I was doing basically what I've been doing for years, but 2 days, I would eat a little bit more. That's how I approached it at the beginning. And what I found was that was taking forever to get into a rhythm. I was feeling full. I was doing oatmeal a lot as my extra calories. And then I would feel very uncomfortable. I wouldn't eat my extra calories. So I decided I needed to find some other source of calories that would not fill me up so much. And that entered nut butters, peanut butter, and nuts. Those fats have lots of calories, and they don't fill you up so much. And so I started moving from 2 days a week with oatmeal, which was making me full, to 3 days a week of a protein shake that included things like protein powder, water, some oats, some peanut butter, some frozen berries, those kinds of things. And that totaled maybe 400 calories, maybe even a little bit more, depending on how I made the shake. I would have that 3 times a week. That became really easy for me. easy way to get my calories up significantly in a short period of time. Cleaning out the Ninja, if I'm being really honest here, became a pain in the butt. And so sometimes I would factor in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something like that, that's still higher in calories, but I don't have to clean the Ninja. If any of you that have one of those, you know what I'm talking about. That got to be a real pain. And it took me a long time to get into this rhythm, several months. And I want to put out here right now that I was not tracking during this whole period. And I got some pushback from people about why I'm not tracking, and I just want to quickly address that. I am not tracking because I have really not a lot of reason to track. I am not trying to attain a specific goal in a specific amount of time. I am doing this because I want to. That's it. I chose not to track. And it's worked out super, super well for me. I originally set out to do this for 4 months. And my goal in those 4 months was to try to gain a pound a month. And really, I have hit that goal. I did have 2 months, the first 2 months, I struggled with eating my calories. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, exactly what was going on with that. But it took me 2 months to get into a rhythm with this. That was very tough. Very tough trying to find my rhythm with what I was going to eat, when I was going to eat it. I liked the fact that I could cycle those days, so I could choose when my higher calorie days were based on maybe my schedule, if I was working out or if I was going someplace. So there was a lot of flexibility there, which I loved tremendously. I think that was a huge advantage. I've decided to extend my muscle building phase. So I extended it to 6 months, which is where we are right now. I added an extra 2 months because those first 2 months were so much of me doing trial and error and trying to find something that worked. And most importantly, being honest with myself with what was going on. And I'm going to touch on that here in a second. So that's basically what I've been doing for 6 months. 3-4 days a week, adding extra calories on those days. So let's move on to what surprised me during this time. Okay, so there were a lot of things that surprised me during this 6 months. Some things I logically knew, but when they hit you in the face, kind of in reality, it was a little surprising to me. The first thing that was really surprising was how hard it was to eat my calories. You know, when you think you're in a surplus, you're thinking, oh boy, you can eat whatever you want, and you can do this and you can do that. And that's not exactly how it is. There is a little bit more freedom, but my body was used to consuming a certain number of calories for years. That's where my body was comfortable. And I was having to push my body out of its comfort zone. I spent so many years of my life trying to learn to listen to hunger cues. And those went right out the window because there were so many times I had to eat when I wasn't hungry and I didn't want to, especially at the beginning of this, the first 2 months. And this is where I mentioned before about being honest with myself. Those first 2 months when I wasn't hungry and I wasn't eating the calories that I was supposed to be eating, part of that was true. I wasn't hungry, but I didn't force myself to eat them either because underlying all of this, I didn't want to see the scale go up. I mean, that's what was driving that. And I had to be brutally honest with myself. I also had discussions with Jordan about this and had to really have a come to Jesus meeting with myself and just say, if you're going to do this, you have to cut the bullshit and you have to do it. You're going to have to eat sometimes when you're not hungry. That's just it. So once I got that, I really started getting into a rhythm. That's where I started adding the shake instead of doing oatmeal. That's when I started experimenting on how many days a week to do this. And that's when things started to get on a roll. But I had to be honest with myself. I was allowing the fear of the scale going up to dictate what I was going to do. That was my excuse for not eating the calories that I needed to eat on a certain day. It was a subconscious thing, and it started to play out more and more and more. But I addressed it, and it's something I think we all have to do with ourselves, whether we're losing fat or building muscle. We have to be honest with ourselves the entire time. So once I did that, things started to happen. And that was very hard, by the way. That was super, super hard, to be honest, and follow through. Because there were still times where I was hungry and I was tempted not to follow through, but I did. I was a little surprised at how long this takes. You know, we always say how long fat loss takes, and it does, but building muscle takes even longer. And I think it's harder because if you don't take pictures, you're really going to struggle with, is this working or not? All you're going to have is the scale. So I was surprised at how long this was taking for me. And I wasn't surprised, but I sort of was, in how important pictures are for this phase. If you're going to build muscle, please, please, please take pictures regularly. Take them before in different poses or positions, whatever, and take them in the same spots periodically as you go. I was not great about that at the beginning. I do have some pictures that I can put together, and we'll show them here in the video. Pictures are so important with this, so please make sure you're taking pictures. And I also think that what surprised me along the way is how okay I became with having some more body fat on me. That was like a death wish for me before. I would never have thought of wanting to have more body fat on me. But as I've gone through this and I've seen the changes and I've seen that it's under control, I kind of like where I'm at. And I know that's totally caught me off guard. I always wanted to be thin my whole life, I thought, until I did this. And I've only done, been 6 months. So the last 6 months, I've had a huge mindset shift on what I really want and what I like. And that's stunning to me for someone my age and who believes something for so long. And the last thing is, I think two things that surprised me. One, how the scale fluctuates even in a surplus. Oh my gosh, did the scale fluctuate for me. I had 2 significant spikes. I've had several significant dips. And they all work themselves out, but that can really mess with your mind, especially the spikes, when you're not quite comfortable with the scale going up yet and you see it spike way past what your goal weight was going to be. And then it settles itself back down. You have to be patient. And I want to emphasize one thing here. Several times when I had a weight spike, the next day was supposed to be a high calorie day for me. I could have, and I almost did, say, you know what, I'm not going to do high calories today because the scale spiked. I need to let it settle and come back down. I chose not to do that, and that was so, so hard to do. I made myself have my high calorie day, and guess what? It settled anyway. It just shows you that the scale is going to fluctuate regardless of what you do, whether you're in fat loss, whether you're even in maintenance, it fluctuates, and in a surplus. That caught me off guard. And the last thing that caught me off guard was I had a period of time during this 6 months where I was in a rut in the gym. Everything felt heavy. I felt like I was regressing. And I started to panic a little bit because I thought, I'm supposed to have more energy. I'm supposed to be able to lift more weight. I'm eating more food. Why is this happening? And all of those positive things happened at the beginning. But what ended up happening, I just had a rut somewhere halfway through or so. It lasted for almost a month, but I kept going. I backed down my weight and I just kept at it, and I popped out the other side of it stronger than ever. So you never know what's going to happen. So those are all the things that surprised me during this 6 months. So now let's move to, what did I love the most about this phase? Okay, so what I loved the most about this phase, I had a bunch of things that I loved the most. I loved the freedom with nutrition. I loved being able to have foods that I hadn't really even thought about in a long time, like peanut butter. My gosh, have I missed peanut butter? Didn't even know it until I started incorporating that back in to my diet. And I'm gonna keep it in my diet too. Just when I travel, freedom to have whatever really I wanted without thinking too much about it. But interestingly enough, I didn't have all these foods that I would never ever eat. I just didn't think about it as much anymore. What I ate didn't change so much as how I thought about what I ate. And that was a big freedom for me. And I loved every second of that. I loved how I only added calories on certain days. Because if I had to break down those adding calories every single day, it would have been just a little bit every day. And that would have driven me batshit crazy. So I liked taking a few days a week and plopping more calories on those days. And then the rest of the days were normal days for me, maintenance days. That worked so well. It was so much easier to keep track of. And it just made the process way easier for me. And if you do this and you track your calories, I recommend you do it that way too. It's going to be way easier to track than trying to track 50 extra calories every single day or something like that. Pick a couple days, add substantial calories on those days. So by the end of a week, you're in the plus column. That has worked out really well. I like that I'm not tracking. I have loved that. And what I have shown myself is that my knowledge base about how my body is and what I can eat is there. I know what my maintenance is. I now know how to build on top of my maintenance. And because my maintenance is so solidly in place, I could go into a cut if I wanted to. I know how to do that too. And I think all of this comes from experience that I did years ago with tracking, weighing and measuring, learning about calories and portion sizes, and then applying it. So for me right now, not tracking has been fantastic. I have loved the energy in the gym. At the very beginning, my energy was outrageous. I was making gains in every lift for the better part of a month and a half, 2 months, and then I fell into that little rut that I was describing before and popped out of that the other side stronger than I was before I went in. The rut surprised me, but overall the energy in the gym has been significantly different, and I've loved every second of that. And I guess the one thing I briefly mentioned before that I love a lot is I feel like I'm filled out a little bit more. Do I have more body fat on me? Yeah, I do. And at first that was a little weird to accept, but I kind of love that now. I really feel like that is where I want to be now. I feel like I look better, I feel better. And so I love all of this, which is both a surprise and it's just something I love. So being filled out with a little bit more body fat on me and definitely more muscle on me, I'm loving that as well. So now let's talk about the things that were the toughest during their 6 months, because there was a bunch of tough times. Okay, had a bunch of things happen during these 6 months that have been tough to deal with, but I've come out the other side of all of them. The scale fluctuations were one, couple significant spikes, how that played with my head for a little bit, but how I was logically able to take the emotion out of all of this and understand what was happening and let it play out. That is significant. And it was not easy to do by any stretch of the imagination, but I did it. It was uncomfortable, and I watched those spikes settle right back down. There were times during a given month where I was way over what my goal weight would be for that month. And by the end of the month, it would settle right back to where I needed it to be. And I had significant dips along the way too, and I had to struggle to get the weight back up. So I say this just to say that scale fluctuations are going to happen. They play with your mind, and it was very tough to deal with. But I feel so empowered now that I didn't give up, now that I did not allow the emotion to take over and dictate what I do. And so now I'm more confident when I see spikes, when I see dips. It's all good. Putting on body fat at first was tough. There was a time where I put on a pair of jeans and I'm like, oh, these are a little snug. They're a little bit snugger in the hips and in the belly than they were before. And that for a split second hit me kind of funny, but there's a reason that they fit snugger. I do have a little more body fat on me, but also my glutes have grown. And I have a picture to show my glutes have definitely grown during this process. So yeah, my pants are going to fit a little bit different. All my clothes still fit. It's not like they don't fit me anymore. They do. But my glutes have grown. And that's something that has been hard for me to do over the years. So it was tough at first, but again, I took the emotion out of it and understood what exactly was happening during that time. I had someone at the gym about a month ago come up to me, and this was really tough. And I talked about this on my stories briefly. A guy I see at the gym all the time came up to me and was asking me what I was doing now. He goes, and his words were, because I've seen you look thinner before. And when he said that, I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. All of these old feelings about, oh no, I'm getting fat. he must think I'm fat. This is not working. I need to stop this shit. You know, all those things in a matter of seconds came flooding into my head. And then I took a breath and listened to what he had to say after that, which was, I've seen you look thinner, but I think you look so much better now. You look stronger. You've built more muscle. I love it. What are you doing? So I needed to breathe and listen to everything he said. And it put it all back in perspective. Yeah, you know, I don't think I want to be thin anymore. Those days, I thought I wanted to be thin for my whole life. That's what I thought. And that conversation that I had with him and how I reacted instantaneously, and then how I thought through it, has just solidified, no, I don't want to be thin. I'm done with being thin. I want muscle. I want to be strong for the rest of my life. That's my goal. So that was a real pivotal moment for me. This guy has no idea how much that conversation helped me and bring my head around everything, but it helped me so, so much. One thing that was super tough happened about 10 days ago, and it was a major setback for me. And I got the stomach flu. It's been about 10 days now since I've had it. Came on like a ton of bricks. I was down and out for about 36 hours or so. And I dropped 5 pounds like that. And, you know, I've got so many comments from people saying, oh, I wish I could drop 5 pounds like that. No, you really don't want to drop 5 pounds like that. I didn't drop 5 pounds of fat. I didn't drop 5 pounds of muscle. I was dehydrated first and foremost after almost 48 hours of throwing up and everything. It was dehydration. But it hit me hard because up to that point, I was about ready to close out month 6, and I was literally 6 pounds up. I was exactly where I wanted to be. 6 months in, 6 pounds up. I had nailed it. And then the stomach flu happened. 5 pounds go out the door. So I decided, well, I'm just gonna hydrate, and make sure I'm eating. And sure enough, slowly but surely, the weight's coming back on. I am 1.5 pounds away. I'm knocking on the door of 6 again. I'll be up 6 pounds again in probably the next 24 to 48 hours is my guess. But that was tough because the first thing you think about is, oh my God, 6 months of work down the tubes with the stomach flu. And then you have to think, no, you're dehydrated. That's what most of that was. And so as I became more and more hydrated, and as I'm still working on being hydrated and eating enough, the weight is slowly coming back. It's taking a little bit longer than what I thought, but it's slowly coming back. And I guess one other thing I want to leave you with that I thought was super tough is sleep. Getting sleep is so important just in general, but for muscle building, it's so important because if you don't have the energy when you go into the gym to do your workouts, you're not going to build any muscle. Your workouts are so important, and it's so important how you bring intensity and how you push yourself and how you lift as much weight as you can. All of those things aren't going to happen if you don't have good quality sleep. And I've learned that the hard way a couple of times, but it's now really put sleep at the forefront of priorities for me. So that's a good thing. So let's kind of wrap this all up and talk about overall how this came out and what I'm going to do moving forward. Okay, so I did this for 6 months. I'm essentially 6 pounds up, started at 128 and some change. When all said and done, in the next couple of days, I'll be probably 134 and some change. So from a weight perspective, I did exactly what I set out to do, 1 pound per month. And every month, by the way, actually ended up in 1 pound and change gain here or there. I didn't like gain 2 pounds 1 month and 1 pound the next. It was all right about 1 pound once I got into my rhythm. I've definitely built muscle. I can see it. We have some pictures to put up. It is really interesting. It's not like dramatic. I think if I were to stay with this longer, it would obviously we would see more and more muscle. But there's definite signs of muscle building that has happened over the past 6 months. I'm super happy with how my shoulders and arms have filled out. My glutes have filled out tremendously, and my legs as well. Couldn't be happier with any of that, any more than that. My strength is way up, and which is great. It wasn't like that in that one little phase, but my strength has gone way up. So I'm super excited about that as well. So super successful, I feel like, to show, and I think it's been successful to show you that someone my age can, in fact, build muscle at the age of 59. And there are a lot of people out there that are going to tell you it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's not easy. Let me tell you, the older we get, the harder this is going to be, but you can do it. And I think I've proved that too. So what's next? So really, my plan is this. My plan is I want to hang out in maintenance again for a while. That's kind of what I know. It's what I do best, and it's where my body seems to be the happiest. I'm going to kind of do what Jordan and I call a jab method at this. I'm going to hang out in maintenance for weeks at a time, and maybe do a week or so of a surplus, maybe alternate 2 weeks and 2 weeks, just to keep me slightly in a surplus, but not a big surplus. I think I'm going to end up leaning out just a teeny bit because my calories won't be as much. It's going to be slow. I am not going to go into a cut. I've decided that. I know a lot of people do these bulks and then they go into a cut. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in doing a cut. I don't feel like I've put on this much fat and so much muscle that I need to go into a cut because I like how I am. That being said, by me going into maintenance, I'll probably lean out just a teeny bit, which is fine, whatever. And then I'll do little periods of being in a surplus before I decide to hit the surplus road again, which I will, by the way. I am going to do this again, and maybe for a little bit longer period of time. But this has been an incredibly eye-opening experience for me, something that I've gotten so much out of. I think it's been super successful. I hope I've shown you all sides of what muscle building can be like and the things to expect as you would go through it. And the biggest thing is how patient you have to be and how you have to trust the process. That part is so hard when you're trying to get that scale to go up and it's just sitting funny with you because you've always wanted it to go down. It's okay. Trust me, it's all going to be okay. If you go into this, trust the process, give it everything you have, and you will be amazed at what can happen. So thank you all so much for being here on this journey. I'm going to be doing more updates on kind of this whole maintenance and mini little surplus intervals as we go along. And when I hit muscle building phase number 2, again, I will make sure I let all of you know. If you have any specific questions about this phase, please plop them in the comments below. Click subscribe while you're here because we are going to be putting out a lot more interesting videos, not only about muscle building, but exercises and just nutrition and training. So we'd love to have you hang out here with us as well. And as always, if there's anything I can ever do for you, please never hesitate to reach out. Thank you all so much for being here.